Hi guys, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at, this is CPM CC2, and this is section 3.3.2, specifically number 3-111. Okay. We have a few division problems, division of fractions that we're going to work through. It asks us to complete the following division problems using any method. So I'm going to use a couple methods so that way you get a good sense of each of the different methods. So first method, let me rewrite the problem. 6 fifths divided by negative 3 halves. So one method we have is to get a common denominator. When you're dividing fractions, if you have a common denominator, you can do the same you would do when you multiply, which is just straight across, divide straight across. So let's do that. Let's use that method. So this is the common denominator method. Okay, the common denominator method. So first of all, 6 fifths and 3 halves. I need a common denominator, and it looks like my best common denominator, my least common denominator would be 10. So 5 goes into 10 twice, so I multiply top and bottom by 2 to get this to be 12 tenths. Now I'm taking 12 tenths and I'm dividing that, and I still have a negative. Don't forget there's a negative there. It's going to kind of trail that along. So 2 and 10, 2 times 5 is 10, so 3 times 5 is 15. So now I have the problem set 12 tenths divided by negative 15 tenths. So when you have a division problem and you have a common denominator, that's when you can just divide straight across. Okay. So I have 12 divided by negative 15 over 10 divided by 10. And what do I get? Well, that 10 over 10, once you have that common denominator, your numerator or your denominator always becomes 1 after you do the division. And I look at this, I have 12 divided by negative 15. So I'm going to rewrite that as a fraction, negative 12 over 15. So anything, and again, anything over 1 is whatever the numerator is on top is itself. So negative 12 over 15 is what I have so far. And then if I want to, I need to go one more step to simplify. And simplifying this fraction looks like it is divisible by 3 top and bottom. So I end up with 4 fifths, and my final answer is a negative 4 fifths when I do the division. Because the whole time I had a positive divided by a negative, so my final answer is a negative. And I simplify to have 4 fifths. So there's A. That would be using the common denominator method. So B, I'm going to use, so for B, I will use the giant 1, using the giant 1, which becomes invert and multiply, or find the reciprocal, the multiplicative inverse and multiply. So this is the giant 1 method, which really shows us what the invert and multiply shortcut is. Okay, so it's the giant 1 method which gives us that shortcut of invert and multiply. So let's do B that way. So B is 7 fourths divided by 3 fifths. So what we have here is, again, any division problem can be written as a fraction. So this is the same thing as saying 7 over 4 all over 3 over 5. So 7 fourths all over 3 fifths, right? Division problem can be written as a fraction. So the giant 1 then would be, I want to multiply all of this by something that would equate to 1, right? The same thing over the same thing, but that's going to cause my numerator to become 1. I need a multiplicative inverse. I said numerator, denominator. I want my denominator to be 1. So what is the multiplicative inverse of 3 fifths, or reciprocal of 3 fifths, is 5 thirds. So 3 fifths times 5 thirds is 1. So that's why when I multiply that by this, I'm going to make my giant 1 5 thirds over 5 thirds in order to get that to be 1. So when I multiply straight across here, right, I have 7. So on top, I have 7. 7 times 5 is 35, and 4 times 3 is 12. So 35 twelfths all over 1. Remember, all over 1 just means the numerator is itself, so it's 35/12. And then again, I think I can, actually, no, I don't think I have, let's see, 5 and 7 go into there, so that would be it. 35/12 is my final answer. Cannot be simplified further. Okay, so that's using the giant 1, which really is this invert and multiply, right? So the shortcut, what I mean by that is if you see this giant 1, every time when you use the giant 1, your denominators all become just 1. So it's really that shortcut, if you will, is the invert and multiply, is the just paying attention to the numerators, which would be 7/4 times 3/5, right? So that's what we did in the numerator, and that's that invert. You take the second fraction and you get it multiplicative inverse, the reciprocal, and you just multiply and you end up with that 35/12. So the giant 1 shows why it works, but this is the shortcut, if you will, to that invert and multiply when you do division of fractions. Okay, so that's B. All right, so there's the explanations. So let me just get through D and C real quick so we can see those as well. So D, oh, actually I'm on C. So C, let me make some room here. C is negative 4/0 divided by 5 and 11/14. Okay, so I have negative 4/0 divided by 5 and 4 by 5 and 11/14. So right away, actually, I'm going to look at this question. I'm going to go, I can't do anything. I can't do this division problem because we have a situation here. This fraction is not possible. There's no way you can do a division of 0, right? You cannot divide by 0. Dividing by 0 gives you an error in your calculator. It tells you it's not possible. You cannot divide by 0. So because of this fraction being in this problem, there is no answer. So for this problem, for C, there is no solution. No solution because you cannot divide by 0, right? So C, kind of a trick question there to kind of make sure you're paying attention. But when you see that divided by 0, there's no solution because you cannot divide by 0. Your denominator of a fraction can never be 0. Now, on a side note, could I have flipped that? Could I put a 0 in the numerator? Yes. 0 in the numerator is 0. 0 divided by 4, 0 divided by anything is 0. But you cannot divide by 0. All right. Let's look at D then. D, the last one, is negative 2/3 divided by negative 1 and 1/4. So with this one, no matter what, if you're going to use the common denominator method or the invert and multiply, you've got to turn your mixed number into a single fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this to be negative 2/3 divided by negative 1 and 1/4 is the same thing as negative 5/4, right? The denominator times the whole number plus 1 is the new numerator, right? So we have negative 5/4. So I'm going to shift this and do the invert and multiply method. So the first fraction stays the same, and I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, and it's still negative though. The reciprocal doesn't change its sign, it just flips the numerator and denominator. And then I have multiplied straight across. First of all, a negative times a negative, my answer will be positive. Okay, so I'm going to have a positive, and then my numerator is going to be 8, 2 times 4, and my denominator is going to be 15, 3 times 5. So positive 8/15 is my final answer. Okay, there you go.